Good evening, chaps, and welcome back to Glazed. This is episode 3 of this fortress that we're building. So the last couple of episodes I spent quite a lot of time talking about grand designs, or maybe not so grand, just the plans for the fort really. So hopefully going to try and crack on with some of it proper. So one of the first things I've done actually is added a couple of hotkey locations, which I think is a really useful tool. So if you press capital H, it will bring up this screen here, and then you can just cycle through. So I'm just pressing the different F keys now, and then when you've got a particular F key selected, if you then press Z, it will lock the location. So I don't know if any of you guys play RTS games, StarCraft or anything like that, you'll know how important hotkeys can be. But I think they're really useful in Dwarf Fortress, particularly where you've got the different Z levels. It makes it much quicker to navigate around your fort. So F1 defaults to where you had your wagon right at the start of the game, which is here. So F2 I've set to this initial little fortress that we put together to keep our dwarfs, get our dwarfs up and running at the start. F3 is actually going to be, I say the entrance, if you guys remember, so this is the top floor of the entrance. So this is actually going to be our first defensive level, but this is where the entrance will be below here. And then F4, and you can't really see a lot here, that's just the central staircase. So if we look up here on the right hand side, this is -16, which is fairly deep. Now this is actually going to be our first bedroom level, so I'm going to try and designate some of that out now. I'll probably end up editing some of this out because I'm not sure it'll be the most thrilling watch. Got another coffee, bit of a coffee monster to be honest. I've got some pita bread and hummus here as well. I don't know if any of you guys are hummus fans, but just put a little splash of olive oil on the top and then a touch of lemon juice. Dip the pita in. Absolutely magic. So if we go into designation, and now we're mining out. So this is quite a cool bedroom design that I found a while ago. I'll have to see if I can dig out the original image online, because someone a lot cleverer than me has come up with this design, and I think it's really cool. So with digging out to the right here, it's going to be symmetrical, split into 4 different regions basically. I'm still getting used to this priority on the digging. I think it looks quite strange to be honest, but I did notice when you come back out of the menu like that, it then looks more like what I'm used to. So we're going to designate there, then it comes across 5 squares, like so. So this will be the right hand corridor, and there's a small single width corridor that will go the whole way around this floor of bedrooms. So that gives you some idea of the scale of this. It's going to be that wide times 4, if that makes sense. So these are going to be rooms. So this is going to give us 3 squares per dwarf, and that's behind the door. So you've still got plenty of room for the bed. I think it's a chair and storage, isn't it? I still need to double check that. I think that's pretty much the standard setup. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you will find when you start designating these things out, you start to recognise the numerical patterns that make up the design. And of course there is quick fort. It's not, if I'm honest, something I've ever really used, which is probably to my detriment, but basically it lets you map these things out in Excel, and then at the push of a button, similar to running a macro I suppose, it will then designate it all out. So if you have got a popular design, you can map it onto quick fort, and then it's really easy to reproduce it over different forts or different floors, for example. So I should probably really jump on the quick fort bandwagon, and to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if a design like the one I'm going for here is actually already on there. So just designating this out. So it's slowly taking shape. So each of these is a bedroom basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just move that out of the way. I'm just going to get rid of this. So I'm only going to probably do one half fit for now, because we don't have we only have a population of 8 at the moment, so we don't need to go completely bananas, take loads of time designating out all these bedrooms when we can't actually occupy them. It just seems a bit of wasted resource at the moment. So let's just get this first one done. And do let me know, guys, whether you actually like watching stuff like this being designated out, or whether it's pretty monotonous. Because I can just edit it out, that's no problem. My plan was to show this first one, and then in future I'll just cut past it. So it's taking shape now. We've still got this bottom side here to do. Cool, so that's effectively 1/4 of it done. So where this wall is here, doors will go either side of that, and then where there's this wall here, that will be a double door. So you can place doors 2 wide in Dwarf Fortress. I've just missed one there. So each quarter of this design will give us 4, 8, 12, 14 bedrooms. So for all 4 on a 1-floor design, you're going to get 64 rooms total. So I've got the population limit set to 120. So 2 floors would be more than ample, and that's not going to take into account any nobles, or later on if you get any royalty, because you'll have to build much more roomy and much more opulent quarters for them to live in to satisfy all their requirements. So really you're going to be looking at a couple of floors of this will keep a decent sized fortress completely sorted in terms of bedrooms for all the dwarfs. So the way this works is, once you've dug out this design in all 4 quarters, you'll see that there's quite a large central area here. So you can put statues and other things here to give positive thoughts for the dwarfs to walk past. So if you get a fort yourself and you're using Dwarf Therapist, which I really recommend, that lays out all the labours and skills quite clearly for you. But it also lets you really quickly look at the happiness levels of your dwarfs, which is quite handy. So obviously you want them to be, well, happy. And I think if things get really bad, you can lose your fortress basically, because they go a bit insane. I've never actually got to that point before, but you will see it if you get attacked and lose a high number of dwarfs, or there's corpses and stuff like that in the hallways. So that's when it can start to really spiral and snowball out of control. So let's try and do this top half. Hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker. Okay, so the outline is done. So if we bring that up now, start filling in the rooms around it. That is not looking good, is it? I think that's looking a bit better. Pull that down too. That will go there, that will go there, that will go there, and then... Fantastic, so I think that covers it. Just having a quick double check to make sure I haven't done anything glaringly obvious. I hope none of you guys have got OCD and I've missed a square. To be fair, that would affect me a lot worse than it would affect you guys. I don't know about you, but it'd drive me absolutely mad if I've misplaced one of these single designations. Probably another reason to use something like quick thought, to be honest. So that's it all designated out. So you can add stairways throughout this if you want the dwarves to be able to move between the floors really easily, and that is more efficient. I'm gonna leave it as is for now. It's always something that could be added later on. I don't know why, but for some reason I like having a central staircase, and it seems odd to have stairs scattered throughout the floors, even though in my head I know it's a more efficient way of doing it, and that is something we're going to be looking at for the industry floors. So we'll see how that goes. So that's it. If I come out now, it looks a bit more finished and polished, so hopefully that'll look quite nice once it's all dug out, and we'll smooth all the stone and get it carved as well eventually. And then of course you've got the juggling act of filling it all with furniture, which is always fun. I remember quite a big learning point for me when I was playing this game fairly early was when I realised that you could designate these out, and then dwarves will actually just claim bedrooms, so you don't have to assign them manually, which is an absolute saviour if you're playing with 200 odd dwarfs, because you can spend hours assigning Urist and Muckbeard individual bedrooms that face in the right direction and align with their personal values of Feng Shui. I'm just joking, but yeah, you don't have to individually assign them all, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's the bedroom floor down at -16. If we start climbing up now, so about -12 is where eventually I think our farm's going to sit. So I think the issue we're probably going to run into is there's a good chance this is all just rock and there's not any soil layer. So we're going to have to actually manually irrigate it, which basically involves running water down from the river or alternatively up from a cavern if we find one. It'll probably be down from the river, to be honest, because it's safer, a bit less risky, and we'll probably have more control if we just channel it down. And I like to have a central supply of water coming down through the fortress anyway. So we'll bring that down, and then we'll probably have to flood the farm areas that we actually want to farm on. And then part of the trick is knowing when to switch off the water, because you just literally need to cover each tile. It doesn't matter how deep, it can be a single depth level. And then of course you need enough water to cover it, but not so much that it will cover everything in more than one depth level, because it's only at a depth of 1 that the water will then evaporate. So you need to cover it all in a really thin layer, and you've got to balance thin enough that it will evaporate, but enough water that it will cover the land that you actually want to plant crops on. So that's sort of the juggling act you get when you're manually irrigating for crops in this game. So I was thinking about how we might do the farms, guys, and for some reason I would just like the idea in my head of farms and crops, and it's an organic area. So I was thinking we'd try and do a bit more of an organic design. And I know nature is ultimately based on fractals, and to be honest it's not something I know a huge amount about, but I think there's a lot of books out there. It sounds quite interesting about how nature can ultimately be broken down into these numbers and these fractals that govern what these different plants and such like look like. So you could argue that fractal designs are quite organic, but I'm thinking more big round rooms for us to plant all our crops in, different sizes intermingling, almost a bit like bubbles, and hopefully that'll give a bit more of a natural organic look, which I think should align and should give a bit of character behind this big farm plot, which is really what we're trying to build down here. And that's going to be, I'm not going to say the lifeblood of the fortress, but it's going to be a big part of it, providing all the food and of course plump helmets, which are just such a massive part of this game. So I'm going to start by designating, if I get on the right menu, start by designating a circle. Very exciting, I know. So I don't know if any of you guys play Minecraft as well. I'd hazard a guess and say you probably do. So I'm sure you've been there, as I have in the past, with your inventory full of glass blocks, and you think it'd be a great idea to build a giant glass dome or greenhouse or such. And there's quite a nifty diagram if you just use the search engine, type in something along the lines of Minecraft circles, it will pop straight up, and that'll just give you a rough guide as to how you can lay these things out. So obviously we're only dealing in 2 dimensions in this game. Well, is it 3D? No, not really. Visually, we're only dealing with 2 dimensions unless we use a visualizer, which hopefully we will be able to do later on, so we can see what our fortress looks like in all its 3D splendour. So I'm just going to designate this out. So this will probably be one of the main farm plots. I'm thinking in my head maybe this will have the plump helmets, or at least this will be the plump helmets to start with. And then around it, we're basically going to have a number of other smaller plots. So I'm just going to start to design out a slightly smaller circle now, and obviously the sort of trade-off you get here is the smaller the circle is, the less sort of natural it actually looks, the more manufactured. So the lower the resolution of the circle itself. Cool. So just for info, this is a 25 and this is a 15, and I think that must be the radius, not the, would that be the radius or would that be the diameter? 1, 2, oh no, so that will be the diameter. So this will be one of our slightly smaller farm plots, maybe, I don't know, pigtail or something like that, not too sure. And then I'm just thinking about it now, we're probably going to have another one here. But I'm happy leaving that as it is for now. That's more than enough space. So then as we expand the farming industry, and this is something which I think ties in quite well with this idea of having like an organic design to this part of the fort, we'll just expand with more and more of these round farming areas that we can then designate up with farm plots. So we are going to have to just think maybe a little bit about how we want to actually irrigate them, particularly if that doesn't turn out to be a soil level, which is quite unlikely, because we are going to have to be in a position where we can irrigate parts at a time. So as we expand to an additional plot, we're going to have to be able to irrigate just that, obviously without flooding our entire farming infrastructure. Great. So if we go back up to the fort itself, just let it actually run for a few minutes. So having spent the first couple of minutes talking about hotkeys, I've now just completely ignored them. And we'll just get some more furniture designated up, because we know that we've got, I didn't mean to do that, we know that we've got a number of new sleeping quarters being mined out, hopefully in the not too distant future, although it's still a way to go for the miner with his little legs all the way down there. Let's get some more brews on the go, some more beer. Still got our dormitory there. So I don't know if you guys noticed, I didn't, but you might have better eyes than me. At the end of the last video, we actually got some migrants. So that is what that was showing. So if we have a look down here, we've got a ranger, new arrival, so novice marks dwarf, novice dodger, novice animal caretaker, novice trapper. Okay, so that's probably quite a good addition, so hopefully he can do some hunting around the map. I'm not too sure what we've got in terms of wildlife. And we have, okay, so another carpenter who's adequate. So there's a good chance that he's going to be better at carpentry than our existing carpenter, who's conveniently placed here. Oh, so he's competent. So would competent be better than adequate? I'm tempted to say yes, but that's a bit of a stab in the dark, so I have to check on Dwarf Therapist for that, I think. So let's just let the game play. See what they're up to. So they just seem to be stationary down there. I don't know exactly what's going on. Are they fighting? Dead tomato plants. Ranger and leaves. Maybe not. I wasn't sure if there was some combat going on there. I don't think so. I think I got the wrong end of the stick there. So they've just run off for some reason. So we could gather some of these plants in, and that actually might help us gather. That might actually help us collect some seeds as well for different types of plants, which can be quite useful. Although I assume the only seeds you'll get from above ground plants that you gather will be seeds that then need to be planted in an above ground situation. So you can, if you channel down from above here, you can actually grow those sorts of plants underground. But we're going to struggle to pull that off based on where we've just put our farm, which is really quite deep underground. So that probably isn't going to be an option for us. Just checking on the bedrooms there, doesn't look like our miner's made it that far yet. Where's he digging then? I am not exactly sure. So I still need to open up Dwarf Therapist, and I may need to have a bit of a fiddle, because it might be that the miner's hauling stone or something like that, which isn't ideal. So I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that mason there just came up here with a stone to drag it to his workshop when there's a store full of rock literally two tiles away. So I'm not sure why he wasn't using that. Okay, so our ranger's already run out of ammunition, so we need to get a bowyer set up, start making him some bolts, although we're going to struggle to do any better than wooden bolts at the moment. So maybe we need to get some livestock up and going, and then we can look to create some bone bolts. And there goes our miner. So I'm just wondering whether, can dwarfs only actually enter a workshop from one direction? I'm pretty sure that's not the case, because you can't change the orientation of them, can you? So then you'd be in a spot of bother. So it looks like at some point I decided to put a chair in that. And I've done the same down there. Deary me. I didn't even notice that. I don't know if any of you guys picked up on it. Yeah, there's another throne there. Okay. Right, so giving a bit of an overview, I've designated some stuff out. I think that's probably going to be it for this video while we wait for stuff to get up and running. I might add some more activity after a cut if I choose to cut this bit out, so we'll see. Thanks for watching, guys. As ever, it'd be great to have any feedback, or if you want to see where this fort's going to go, then by all means feel free to just subscribe to the channel. Obviously I've only put a couple of videos out, I'm very new to this whole thing, so really appreciate your support if you are watching, guys. Any questions or any feedback, any suggestions for future episodes or things you want to see more of, please let me know. I'm trying to get to the point where there's a bit more activity in the actual videos, because I'm conscious there's been a lot of planning, but I think really that's just the nature of the game at this early stage. So hopefully we're going to start to slowly get more stuck into it as the next few videos progress, and then the action should increase and it should be a bit more interesting and a bit more fun for you guys as we try and get our fort up and going. So thanks for watching, take care,